Did popular advertising platforms affect the outcome of the 2016 United States election? McDonald's is buying kids Happy Meals based on grades. School districts are forced to consider the revenue benefits of advertising on buses and in school hallways. A capitalist consumer media engineered to sublimate your very existence and force you to partake in a subliminal culture of spiritual destruction? Is there a connection? This timeline was created from Tim Wu's The Attention Merchants, an amazing book that goes deep into the history of advertising and the attention economy. You should buy it. The words are a combination of my notes and portions of the book. The images used are all labeled for reuse or noted in the photo citation section. This is by no means an exhaustive history of advertising, and if you're curious to learn more, please buy a copy of The Attention Merchants and dig deeper. Attention merchants harvest human attention and sell it to advertisers. The attention merchants are in the business of influencing consciousness, and they've been at it for a while. So let's explore the attention merchants together. The hope is to learn the history of how our attention has been monetized and to find ways to protect and conserve our last great human resource, our attention. Costing only a penny, the New York Sun is cheap. Benjamin Day sells space to advertisers to make up for the low selling cost, but it needs a huge distribution. Day figures out newsstand earnings are trivial. The real money is in ad revenue. Large numbers of people taking in shared daily news like the Sun gives rise to public opinion. The attention merchants thrive on it. Along with imitating the Sun's advertising model and penny price, Bennett understands that the function of a newspaper is not to instruct, but to startle and amuse. The Herald features true crime stories written in gritty detail. Their first 2 weeks cover several murders and suicides. The sales skyrocket. The Herald realizes that fear is a powerful selling tool. To swipe attention from new competition, the Sun prints a 5-part story about creatures living on the moon, complete with descriptions and images. The paper sells out fast. The Sun realizes that facts don't matter when it comes to pushing papers. Attention Merchant 101. The advertising model is the default switch for attention merchants. Draw attention with apparently free stuff and then resell that attention to advertisers. A consequence of this model, however, is the total dependence on gaining and holding attention. Charest studies in London and revives lithography. His huge, colorful billboards, some over 7 feet tall, most featuring scantily clad ladies, were simply impossible to ignore. Patent medicines advertise heavily in the penny press, each a lifesaver. However, the muckraking journalists investigate the death tolls surrounding the products, which leads to advertising language restrictions and some of the first food and drug laws. The British Army needs to increase its numbers for the bloody realities of World War II, so the Secretary of State, Lord Kitchener, along with the Caxton Advertising Agency, creates the most iconic and enduring image of the war. Lord Kitchener Wants You is the first ever use of mass media for wartime propaganda. It leads to a bump in enlistments, but the country is unable to sustain the numbers. England next creates the Parliamentary Recruiting Committee, which runs a permanent information campaign of posters, slogans, and news coverage. The info campaign is an institutionalized way to keep the war and the recruitment efforts at the forefront of everyone's mind. The losers of World War I were important witness to British propaganda. One German war veteran, while in prison, wrote a tract admiring the British use of propaganda as marvelous, praising its simple presentation of negative and positive notions of love and hatred, right and wrong, truth and falsehood, thereby allowing no half measures which might have given rise to some doubt. The book was Mein Kampf, and the fan was young Adolf Hitler, and given his chance, he thought he could do even better. President Woodrow Wilson launches the U.S. Committee on Public Information days after the U.S. enters World War I and names veteran journalist George Creel as chairman. The purpose is to release government news to sustain morale in the United States, to administer voluntary press censorship, and to develop propaganda abroad. Creel enlists thousands of civilian volunteers to give public speeches around the country. The guidelines set forth by Creel directed the volunteers to fill their speeches with facts and appeals to emotions to bolster public support for the war effort. The nephew of Sigmund Freud and also the father of public relations, Edward Bernays actively employs his uncle's theories as he pushes not only cigarettes and soap, but later the overthrow of the Guatemalan government. As he saw it, the conscious and the intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in a democratic society. In 1919, Bernays joins George Creel in the Committee on Public Relations. His work popularized the narrative that the United States' involvement in World War I would bring democracy to Europe. Stunned by the degree to which the information campaigns had swayed the public both at home and abroad, after the war, Bernays wondered whether this propaganda model could be employed during peacetime. After World War I, advertising agencies founded at the turn of the century are now in aggressive expansion. New concepts include demand engineering, reason why advertising, the concept of a brand, and targeted ads, mostly to females. Advertising giants J. Walter Thompson pushed the limits of social self-consciousness and promised transformations with these powerful ads. Oddly enough, some of the most iconic targeted ads for women are created by suffragette Helen Lanzone. For Pond's Cold Cream, Helen Lanzone and J. Walter Thompson take endorsement advertising to a new level by persuasion, utilizing well-known and respected women like socialite Mrs. Reginald Vanderbilt to confer a sense of royalty to products. In 1928, NBC is thought of as just a way for RCA, its parent company, to sell its radios. Pepsodent puts up the money to fund an NBC broadcast of an established minstrel radio program. This represents a turning point in attention history for 3 reasons. NBC realizes that with entertaining fare like Amos and Andy, they are now in the business of selling attention to advertisers. Entertainment offerings lower the aversion to receiving advertising messages. The model of selling eyeballs, or ears, is codified. This also demonstrated an industry could own a part of the day. People stopped doing everything to hear Amos and Andy. Appointment media is born. William Paley's millionaire father buys up a struggling radio network and hands the keys over to young Bill in 1927. Paley hires Edward Bernays to help build the Columbia Phonographic Broadcasting System. Knowing the power of public relations, Bernays suggests that CBS seriously build its news reporting. Beginning in 1929, news is broadcast in 5-minute bursts and only at scheduled times. Paley decides to break rules when CBS reports the Lindbergh kidnapping live on air for the first time in 1932. MIT professor Robert Elder gives a presentation of his Audimeter, a box that can attach to any radio and record the usage of that radio, which radio stations a listener was on and for how long. In the audience is God marketer Arthur Nielsen. Nielsen buys Miller out and sends out hundreds of his black box units, providing the first reliable audience research metrics. The Nielsen ratings and measurements like it will continue to dominate the focus of attention merchants. Capturing a number on audience levels allowed the broadcaster to put a more accurate value on airtime. Numbers, though, can have a disproportionate influence on decision-making. Indeed, Professor Elder lamented his creation. Broadcasting suffers greatly from the misuse of ratings. Nazi press secretary Joseph Goebbels identifies the radio as the most important instrument to Nazi propaganda. The party understands this well, and volunteer radio guards are placed at radios around the country to ensure that no one switches the stations from the Führer's broadcasts, and everyone is actively listening. Those not listening or absent are immediately reported to authorities. To whom does propaganda appeal? To the masses, not the scientific intelligentsia. A strong leader, by understanding the great masses' world of ideas and feelings, finds the way to attention and further to the heart. Propaganda must be popular and has to adopt its spiritual level to the perception of the least intelligent. Therefore, its spiritual level has to be screwed the lower, the greater the mass of people which one wants to attract. There are two different types of attention. Transitory attention, which is quick, superficial, and involuntary, and then there's sustained attention, which is deep, long-lasting, and voluntary. Selling thrives on transitory attention, but success depends on properly balancing the two. Following the rapid rise of television after the war, the Federal Communications Commission is flooded with applications for television station licenses. With more applications than available television channels, the FCC ordered a freeze on processing station applications in 1948. By 1949, the networks stretched from New York to the Mississippi, and by 1951 to the West Coast. CBS News is a powerhouse, thanks to Murrow and Bernay's early input. Senator McCarthy's political witch hunt is a juicy topic for Murrow. By exposing McCarthy, CBS and Murrow show not only courage, but also the power of the private sector and attention industries to defeat official propaganda. Sylvester Weaver, head of NBC, realizes that TV programs can be interrupted by tons of different advertisements, not just one sponsor. Game shows, like CBS's The $64,000 Question, begin a fierce ratings war between networks. Thanks to commercial airtime, advertising brands see significant boosts to sales, and everyone clamors for airtime. This was the moment when more regular attention was paid to the same set of messages at the same time than ever before or since. Elvis on Ed Sullivan captures a massive 82.6% of all TV viewers. Robert Adler develops the first remote control for TV, the Zenith Space Command. Consumers are no longer tied down and can move freely across networks. The first attentional revolt. A spot in history where the audience took control of what they watched and when, but the remote control offered a false revolution. Advertisers always adapt. Ad man Leo Burnett from Chicago promotes brand-driven, warm associations to sell products, rather than the hard sell or the soft sell. Utilizing spokes creations and associative language, Burnett is masterful in his advertising campaigns. Most of Burnett's iconic work is still around today. A scathing expose on the attention economy. Viewers begin to wise up to the messages behind advertising, and a countercultural movement begins to slowly boil. Ratings winners like CBS are charging a premium for their advertising slots. This applies pressure to perform, and so television programs now couldn't linger or evolve. Shows had to be successful and draw eyeballs, or they were out. In 1958, CBS cancels network veteran Edward Murrow's See It Now news program. The ratings for ultra-popular game shows are just too high to ignore. Reeves develops the unique selling proposition and uses the branding power of memorable slogans and reason why advertising. Anacin ads promote the pain reliever over other products. The ad was considered grating and annoying by almost all viewers, but it was remarkably successful, tripling the product's sales. He also creates the M&M slogan, "Melt in your mouth, not in your hand." Hippies, peaceniks, Timothy Leary's dropping acid and telling mainstream society to turn on, tune in, drop out. A quest for intellectual freedom and freedom from anxiety begins, and an obvious hindrance to these countercultural desires is consumer media. Networks and advertisers see TV ratings drop. This is the second attentional revolt. Pepsi marketer Alan Potash creates the Pepsi generation. In a revolutionary way, Pepsi chooses to focus on selling to the counterculture itself, focusing its commercials on images of the users and their world, not just their product. To answer the call of the TV counterculture, educational programming models on television are born to offset commercial domination. They are received extremely well. CBS and Coca-Cola take a chance airing an animated special during prime time. Huge success. The ratings sweep leads to development of in-house network specials. CBS cancels all fish out of water stories and delivers socially relevant shows directed to countercultural audiences. Ratings increase in a huge way, and the second attentional revolt is quashed. The attention merchants show that they can harness the social movements that are currently trending to help continue to capture our attention and sell products. There is a fancy pants term for this. Repressive desublimation is a dynamic by which a putative form of liberation nonetheless manages to perpetuate existing power structures and prop up the system. Connecting computers together to create networks was nothing new, but short messaging available on any computer was something very new. The will to check email nowadays, or Facebook, is a result of operant conditioning. What we do is conditioned by past stimuli and positive or negative reinforcement. Thanks to variable reinforcement, meaning results are a mix of positive and negative, we check our inboxes often to increase the chances of a positive outcome. Gambling, shopping, and other addictions work in similar fashion. Time magazine decides to launch a magazine about celebrity culture. The industry hates it. People love it. With the launch of games like Pac-Man and Space Invaders, arcades see boom times, and Atari sees the power of the third screen, the first two screens being TV and computer. Robbins creates a map of America and segments it by race, income, and 34 different factors based on available census and demographic data. He creates PRISM, the potential ranking index for zip marketing segmentation, where networks can channel advertising messages directly to audiences most likely to buy certain products. While promoting its new Diet Coke, the brand is careful to not cannibalize the consumers of the company's current diet offering, Tab. Using PRISM, Coke sees that only 6 distinct segments buy Tab. Tab markets are not marketed Diet Coke, and everyone else in the country is. Diet Coke becomes a success. With PRISM segmentation, you could say different things to different people and win them all. PRISM and the concept of audience fragmentation would later be used to great effect in politics. Cable TV launches hundreds of specialty channels like Fox, Disney, ESPN, HBO. Remote controls have more ground to cover than ever. Channel surfing is born. The remote control was ultimately a misnomer. Technology designed to increase our control over our attention has the opposite effect. Channel surfing opens us up to streams of selection, all triggered to catch us instinctively. And despite the complaints of the advertisers, a state of distracted wandering was better than being ignored. Oprah Winfrey emerges from Chicago to claim the rest of America. Her influence is powerful, launching companies and media enterprises. The Real World airs and changes the TV landscape forever, leading to Kardashians and other celebrities living on attention and a solely fame-based income. AOL launches at the same time as other web trailblazers, Prodigy and Netscape being a few examples. AOL sees huge success with CD-ROM mailers, but realizes the special power of social connections that their instant messenger service provides. AOL begins a walled garden ad strategy attempting to control access of the internet. Asking price for ad space on the popular site is doubled, tripled, and then quadrupled. By the mid-2000s, though, AOL is struggling, unable to harness social media and monetize the attention. The computer giant Microsoft launches the MSN web browser on all of their new models. Microsoft tries to control access to the internet by making surfing the web more like TV. Bill Gates, the company founder, realizes that content is king and launches the TV network MSNBC. With publishing on the web becoming easier, a new way to harvest attention is born, the weblog. Originally thought to be bored people communicating with one another, social tools like blogs removed the barriers to public expression, which had been traditionally reserved for mass media. The result is the mass amateurization of publishing, which had traditionally been reserved for industry professionals. Blogs can't do what mass media does. Audience fragmentation at the social media level divides the country into informational factions who pay attention to only what they want to hear or what confirms their beliefs. In a democracy, there is wide exposure to diverse viewpoints. When we have the ability to listen only to information we agree with, we risk creating a filter bubble, dividing us even further. Google AdWords changed the existing ad bargain with users. They're not going to be hit with every ad, only the ads relevant to what they search. With free services like Gmail and Maps and Search, Google is a success. Blogs, YouTube, vlogs, webinars, webisodes, so much content. In our post-scarcity world, distribution is not king and neither is content. Conversation is the kingdom, and trust is the king. Mark Zuckerberg launches Facebook from Harvard in 2004, offering not just connection, but an augmented and moldable representation of the users. This will become a massive virtual attention plantation. The launch of these platforms marks the end of the amateur phase of the internet. Now that the attention was assured and localized, money pours in, creating the picture of the internet we know today. A few high-traffic sites and a long tail of smaller sites or blogs with few followers. User-generated content hits a high. Blogs are people-powered media. Social media is people-powered. Time names you the person of the year. People used to pay attention to mass messaging. Now, with social, they only want to talk to each other. In a way, social disrupts mass media like the TV counterculture of the late 60s. As MySpace and other networking sites fold, there is a mass migration to Facebook. Zuckerberg realizes that the users of social media think of themselves as brands. Facebook is the marketing platform of everyday users to push their brand. He understands this in ways that other social media sites don't. As more and more users jump on the site, reports multiply of users reporting depression, obsessive and compulsive use of the site, ultimately leading to several suicides. America had given up huge demographic information just to be connected with their own friends, while having their attention sold to advertisers. Social media sites like Facebook had supposedly replaced cyberspace with something more real, but in fact, it's just another level of unreality, where every meal is perfect, everyone travels, and every couple's happy. All communication is slightly inauthentic, but in person or on the phone, there are limits to our dissimulations. In the late 80s, James Ulmer, a publicist, creates the Ulmer scale, which categorized celebrities into A, B, and C ranking. Added in 2008, the D-list is for the internet famous. No real bankability, but the D-list had triumphed over obscurity, a new goal. Launched in 2006, Twitter provided a great metric to figure out micro-fame. The concept of followers powered the micro-famous, measuring their influence, measuring their worth, and throwing gas on the fire of ego. In an American democracy, anyone can be president. American capitalism means that anyone can get rich. American economy means anyone can be famous. Is this starting to make sense now? In 2007, there are 9 million smartphones. By 2011, there are 472 million. Technology does not follow culture so much as culture follows technology. All desire, wrote René Girard, is essentially mimetic, beyond our elemental needs. We are led to seek after things by example of others, famous or not. All desire is a desire to be, to enjoy an image of fulfillment such as we have observed in others. This is the issue with the preening self unbound by social media and the democratization of fame. By presenting us with example upon example, it legitimates self-aggrandizement as an objective for ever more of us. By encouraging anyone to capture the attention of others with the spectacle of oneself, it warps our understanding of our own existence and its relation to others. Jonah Peretti designs the mobile-first site to send out pure clickbait contagion into the social media ether. Its list-type articles and severe focus on headline creation begin to set the standard for the way info spreads online. Other media sites clamor to copy their viral structure, optimizing the headline to generate clicks and making content easy to skim. Netflix moves into creating content specifically for the subscription-based streaming site, disrupts the TV pilot episode model, tosses ad model into the can, and pays almost $100 million up front for 13 episodes of House of Cards. It's a show that continues to be a success. The Netflix model enables a viewer to binge watch an entire season of one show in hours. Countering the belief that human attention spans are shortening, Netflix proves you can hold deep attention with their bingeable approach to content. The nature of ad-supported TV and pre-roll ad videos is based on transitory attention. You have to catch attention fast because people are moving. Netflix offers deep attention, an alternate reality, where viewers escape for hours on end. Hyper-serials like The Sopranos, House of Cards, or Lost are engineered to draw viewers in, making sense only to those committed to every episode. As advertising models based on mass media are challenged, a type of advertising that matches the form and function of the platform upon which it is shown arrives: native advertising. Its goal is to look exactly like its surroundings, matching the tone and typeset of a magazine or using similar language. Tim Cook, Apple's CEO, comes out in 2015 against data mining, against Facebook and Google selling user information to advertisers. And why not? Ad tracking software from Google and other ad networks slows down Apple's iPhone software. iOS 9 operating systems have complementary ad blocking for the web. Ad blocking technology is increasing in popularity, much to the sadness of advertisers, but the attention merchants will always adapt. The 2016 U.S. president election changes the landscape for how attention is dominated by political drama. Fake news sites push clickbait headlines that contain political outrage fuel. Powered by Google's algorithm and monetized by the search giant's ad platform, the sites strategically gather attention to inflame controversies and spread mistruths that ultimately transform the political and media landscape. But looking back, this is nothing new. The most urgent question is not whether advertising is good or bad. It's not how the attention merchants conduct business, but where and when. At our fingertips is the world and the possible erosion of private life's perimeter, a paradox. In having so thoroughly individualized our attentional lives, we should wind up being less ourselves and more enthralled to our various media and devices. We need a human reclamation project. In the future, the most vital resource to humans that is in need of conservation and protection is likely to be our own consciousness and mental space. Whatever our personal goals or the things we'd like to achieve, the goals of the attention merchant is generally at odds with them. What are the costs to a society of an entire population conditioned to spend so much of their waking lives not in concentration and focus, but rather in fragmentary awareness and subject to constant interruption? Advertising isn't even terribly profitable. If we desire a future that avoids the enslavement of a propaganda state, as well as the narcosis of the consumer and celebrity culture, we must acknowledge the preciousness of our attention and resolve not to part with it as cheaply or unthinkingly as we so often have. We are what we pay attention to.